everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Cleantech. You thought you were rid of me, Mike Casey, but you're not, my friend. Episode 50 looks a lot like episode 51, except you don't have to smell my musk next to you in a hot recording studio at RE+. How you doing, buddy?
It wasn't that bad.
No, it wasn't.
You did fine.
I looked back and I was very sweaty. I was damp looking.
You look like you were working hard. That's the important thing.
This isn't a hard-working show. It's just a roundup of the week's biggest stories that you need to know about in climate and clean energy. We do it in 15 minutes or less. That includes the banter time. Today is Friday, September 27, 2024. I'm Renewable Energy World Content Director Paul Gerke. Catherine Boudrea is standing by. She's with Business Insider. She'll be joining us shortly on the show. And you know this guy, Cleantech PR veteran Mike Casey of TigerCom. Mike, our thoughts are with everybody right now being ravaged by Hurricane Helene.
For sure.
It looks like a mess in most of the country.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. You know why our SVP here at TigerCom, Melissa Baldwin's down at Tampa, and she was showing us footage of her mom's beachside condo building, like, swimming in 20 feet of water. So
Unreal.
Definitely serious. Hope everybody stays safe and dry. And I want to share a few words of praise we've gotten this week. Two listeners messaged me on LinkedIn. One's Edgar DeLeon. He said, I've been a fan and listening to your podcast for several years now. And he wants us to give a special shout out to the team at Sun Renewables, who Edgar says are avid listeners of the show. The second is Armash Ansari, who said, I'm a regular listener to the Fact of this podcast. I enjoy the brief weekly update on the clean energy industry and the little jokes between you and this is Armash's words, pessimistic John.
Is that what he goes by? He's pessimistic John on this show?
I was thinking of it. It's kind of like a biblical name. It's sort of like Saint John the Pessimist.
I like that.
He's kind of, like if you want to really
the patron saint of bad news, if you will.
No, he's such a curmudgeon on new tech. And I think the reason we have you on the show is he made up some story about, the hurricane in Asheville getting dumped on.
He says he has no power for a couple of days. He's just trying to get out of work.
I don't believe it. I think because we've got a cool new tech story here, and he's ducking it. He does not want to talk about it because he's too much of a crap. All right,
that makes sense. Yeah, we do want to thank the listeners, and thank you especially for slowing Mike down by sending him LinkedIn messages. These are great. We thank you for watching the show. Anytime you want to be a part of it, remember you can nominate the stories that we do on the show. rew@clarionevents.com. You could also just email me or the aforementioned John Engel or Mike. There's ways to get a hold of us. We'll have a link in the episode description coming up as well. We need to get to some stories. Mike, what's the first one we're talking about this week?
Samuel Gilbert, The Washington Post. Under a Texas sun, agrivoltaics offer farmers a new way to make money. Your thoughts, Paul Gerke?
I love some bad news. Agrivoltaics, one of my favorite things to write about. Listen, anytime you can put pictures of sheep into an article, it gets click-through. The internet loves sheep. Look at Mudang right now. Any sort of cute animal, lots of play. I know Mudang's not a sheep. Don't send me any emails. Agrivoltaics, whether or not you know about it, it's the growing practice of dual-use land. It's agriculture and solar power simultaneously. The sheep seem to dig it because, they're just doing what they do, sheep stuff. One example here, fourth-generation farmer Chad Rains. He's got sheep grazing underneath a 700,000 panel solar, a 700,000, I'm guessing that's megawatt? 700,000 panels, that's a lot of panels. It's a solar and storage project in Texas. He runs 4,000 different sheep at 6 solar sites in Texas and 1 in Arkansas. We talk about this a lot, Mike. Sheep grazing better for the soil. You're not using herbicides, low cost, eco-friendly. The crops seem to do better in the studies we read about this stuff. And the farmers get to use their land for, like we said, dual use. It increases their incomes. It allows for kind of an easy in to the solar world, I guess. A lot of folks think this is a future industry standard. If they want to build on agricultural land, they're going to have to find a way to incorporate livestock. How did this piece hit you?
I really liked it. And I think when we were at RE+, we had a DOE representatives say that they've got like a multi-million-dollar award competition for the folks who can build projects so cattle can go onto the panel. So it'll be kind of interesting to see the expansions of agrivoltaics that way. I want to point out something. The common concern is that solar projects, utility-scale solar projects, take too much land out of production. I'm going to read you 2 numbers. The U.S. loses something like 1.8 million acres of arable land each year, mostly due to suburban sprawl. During the time our listeners will hear this show, it will have lost 51.37 acres. Suburban sprawl is the Pac-Man monster eater of farmland. It is not solar. And once a solar project is decommissioned, the land can go return back to complete farm use, unlike a suburban sprawl, which you really can't unpave the thing. So I think really this is the future of the industry, and that's why. Story number two.
Story number two, second story. J. David Goodman at the New York Times. Maybe you've heard of that publication. It's called America's Oil Country Increasingly Runs on Renewables. Tell me about that one.
Going to read you two passages from the story that summarizes it well. Passage number one. During the scorching summer of 2023, the Texas grid wobbled as surging demand for electricity threatened to exceed supply. Several times, officials called on residents to conserve energy to avoid a grid failure. This year, it turned out much better, thanks in part to more renewable energy. Note. But I would say that renewables are succeeding in Texas despite the ideology over reality crowd that seems to run awesome policymaking too often. Quote number two. The abject irony is that the once freewheeling power market is now on the precipice of becoming a fully government-controlled entity, said Aaron Zubati, the chief of Oleon, which invests in energy projects. New technologies have provided market solutions and are scaling rapidly, he said. As a result, legacy-fired power generators and their political backers are trying to increase barriers for the newcomers and to push the market to go all in on natural gas. Those are your two passages you want to know about this piece. Paul, what'd you think?
Well, everyone's talking about how everything's bigger in Texas right now, right? They've got the deregulated market. The grid is all in one state with ERCOT. They're not connected to anybody else. They can kind of do their own things. They don't have to follow the same federal regulations that others do. What's really struck me about Texas is the way they navigated their peak this summer with grid battery storage. Really, I think it's something like more than 5 gigawatts rather that they had online at the beginning of the year. I think they're going to add another 6 or so by the end of this year. It's a lot, and it's doing a lot for their grid, and it's allowing them to better balance their generation mix with wind and solar as it builds out. It's obviously great for it. There's a lot of land out there, windy, sunny. There's lots of places to build the solar. It's a sort of a testing ground in Texas right now, but I think a lot of people, and I've written some articles to this effect lately, are looking to Texas for ways to sort of advance the industry and ways to get things done quickly. I know connect and manage is hit or miss depending on who you talk to, but it does get stuff online. And that's something Texas has been really good at this past year, and it's helped them out this summer. Mike, what's our third story?
Alexander Kaufman of the Huffington Post, who has told us he's going to come on the show in the near future, proving me right and John Engel wrong. Alex, don't let me down. What the Fed interest rate cut means for climate change. Paul Gerke.
So this is another instance of pessimist John, then. That's what that was. is him just hating on everything. I hate to hear what he says about me. This is why I can't listen to the show. I have too much anxiety. So the Fed's recent decision to cut interest rates by 0.5 percentage point. We all know about that, right? If you own a home or you have a car or anything like that, it means something to you. It could also mean a lot to spur clean energy investment. Renewable energy projects burdened by interest rates, some say more than fossil fuel projects because of the investment coming up front a lot of times. You might remember we talked about the Ørsted wind farm and the NuScale reactor cancellations. They both blamed high interest rates and inflation this year. It seems like every week I'm writing multiple stories on Renewable Energy World about companies that are pulling back in one way or another, and they're blaming interest rates, among other issues, supply chain and things like that. Right now, rates much higher than they were before COVID, and I think folks in clean energy are waiting for them to come down a bit, although that probably says something about a recession. But Mike, I defer to you on that.
We've had some unfortunate cancellations, but some clean tech companies held on to their 2022 fundraising rounds in case inflation became too high. Now, this cut can cause some of those companies to loosen up a bit, maybe spend a little of that hoarded capital. Won't happen tomorrow, but gradually more and more capital will be available for these clean energy projects, and I think the fundraising environment is going to get better. John, our fourth story?
I'm Paul, but John, hey, let me ask John, can I even get a hold of him? Does his phone work? Do you think it's charged?
You totally zapped me.
All right, Eric Spitznagel, New York Post. We're going to keep it in New York. 50 what? 50 episodes with the same guy? And is this like, are you going to call the ex by the new one's name? It hurts my feelings too, pal.
I'm just going to call you what's your face from now on.
I know we both have fantastic lettuce lit up top. Eric Spitznagel, New York Post. From Norway to New York, electric ferries are taking over the globe. Mike, what do you know about electric ferries?
I know this is the story that had John Engel not come on this episode because this is
This was it.
cool new tech, and John Engel would hate it. Ferries. They're already a convenient way to cut commute times, but they pollute a lot. So electric ferries, how badass is this? Now in the scene, they look like they're levitating above the water because they use this hydrofoil technology. It lifts the boat out of water, makes them go super fast. These boats cut carbon pollution by 97.5%. Hydrofoil system reduces energy consumption by 80%. That is badass.
I didn't know we could say ass. I'm smiling at that more than anything. I'll
I
have to
wouldn't
put
go.
that in my back
That's
pocket for
probably the
later.
censors don't want you to go any farther than that. All right, Paul,
Yeah,
what
we
do you
want to be a
think?
family-friendly, clean energy show. So I think that it's about it's an economy of scale thing, Mike. In order for electric ferries to be viable, they have to be more cost competitive, kind of across the board. Everything from the way we make them to how much we're selling them for. And I don't think we're quite there yet. Technology's not there, but I think this is somewhere we have to be. We're going to have to figure out innovative solutions for stuff like this, and your exciting electric ferry story certainly meets the bill. All right, give us our last story and welcome our guest in to settle this mess.
Catherine Boudrea with Business Insider, who's for whatever reason needs to get her head examined for coming back on the show to talk with us about one of her stories. Tech bros and bankers rally around nuclear power to fuel AI's rapid rise. The legions of nuclear bros that dominate LinkedIn are going to be very happy with Catherine Boudrea. But welcome to the show, Catherine. If they have not read your story, which we want them to do, what is the big takeaway?
Yeah, well, I guess I was just in New York City for Climate Week. I was there for 3 days, and definitely the talk of the town was the fact that Microsoft and Constellation Energy have this deal to restart Three Mile Island to provide Microsoft with power for its growing fleet of power hungry data centers. And I think this is really symbolic because, Three Mile Island shuttered 5 years ago because it wasn't really economical to run this nuclear power plant because it's hard to compete with cheap natural gas. Also, decades ago, it was the site of one of the worst nuclear accidents in the U.S. That's not the reactor that will be restarted, but nonetheless, Microsoft and other big tech giants, they're planning to spend some like $200 billion on new data centers over the next few years. And that requires a lot of new power. So they're looking to nuclear because it's 24/7, it's reliable, kind of like natural gas, but it doesn't come with the baggage of carbon emissions. So that's where we're at.
Catherine, I want to know, in your opinion, do you think that this provides a starting block for more nuclear development? Do you think that we've put a price in, we put it on pen and paper, and this is what it's going to cost to get new nuclear or to bring back old nuclear in the U.S., and you think this is going to be the first step towards something bigger?
Maybe I'm a little skeptical for a number of reasons. I mean, Microsoft, I think Reuters reported that they're going to be paying a premium for the electricity.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, quite a bit for the nuclear energy from Constellation. So that tells you that it does require, it's more expensive. At the same time, big tech giants have the money to do that. Maybe, because they need to reconcile their climate ambitions with the power hungry data centers, they might be willing to throw some cash at it. But then again, restarting a plant like Three Mile Island is a lot different than building an entirely new fleet of nuclear plants, which I think would be very challenging. I mean, just look at the plant that most recently opened, Georgia Power. That was 7 years later than they expected, $17 billion over budget. So it's not easy to just build a fleet of nuclear.
Catherine, I'm going to ask the crabby old man question. How long will tech's commitment to renewables last if they need power and they can't get it from renewables? I mean, I got to figure it's going to go out. It's going to go out the window faster than anything. But what is
Firm
your
power,
impression?
Mike. Firm power. That's nuclear.
Yep.
I
What
I think
what
it's a
say you,
real fair,
Catherine?
really very fair question. I think in the interim, their climate ambitions are clearly taking a back seat. I mean, the emissions from Microsoft, Google, they're going up. That's because they're relying on dirty energy to power this AI boom that needs data centers. You talk to the tech guys, you talk to and women, and you talk to those in nuclear, and they'll tell you, well, we have to win this AI race. Eventually, we're going to be able to save so much energy by using AI. So it's really going to like, come out even, or maybe we'll save emissions. That's TBD. I am not totally convinced of that yet. In the interim, I think emissions will go up. We'll build more gas plants, as they're already proposing to do in Virginia, for example. So yeah, that's where we're at for sure.
All right, Catherine, really appreciate your time. Mike, you got anything else for her? You want to get to Cleantecher of the Week?
I think we got to go Cleantecher of the Week, my friend. We're just about out of time.
Yeah, we're running out of that 15-minute promise. This week's Cleantecher of the Week, thank you, Catherine, by the way, for stopping by the show. This Cleantecher nominated by Mike Casey himself. It's Robin Swanhuyser, the executive director of Twende Solar. Am I saying that right, Mike?
Yep.
It empowers under-resourced communities with renewable energy systems. Their vision is to have renewable energy be the solution for eliminating poverty, strengthening economies, protecting ecosystems, and achieving a more equitable society. Congrats, Robin, on being our Cleantecher of the Week. And sorry for me rambling through that as fast as I could to appease Mike Casey, who's already hammering out an apology to his next meeting. At the end of the interview there, he's clacking away. Sorry I'm late. These guys are slow.
No, we have a very fierce first listener named Erin Petrie, and she holds our feet to the fire when you renewable energy worlds guys go on and on. She gets upset. So I'm trying to save you the grief. But anyway, sorry. Catherine, thanks for coming. We want to thank our wonderful producer, Brian Mendez, Alex Peterson, Claire Querin for gathering these stories.
Yeah, everybody, please subscribe, give us some feedback, share your story suggestions, interact with us, please. We're lonely and sad. You can read all the articles we discussed this week by clicking on the links in the episode description. I'm just teasing. We're having a great time. We'll see you.